day and thank you for joining us on BTV Global News at 12. I am Lee Breitsman Joanna. Now the news in details. Leon Zoran Mandani announced on Tuesday that he has chosen Steve Banks to serve as the city's next corporation counsel, naming a prominent Trump critic and veteran public interest lawyer to lead the city's law department. The report.
At a press conference, Mamdani said Banks will oversee the laws department, roughly 850 attorneys representing the city in major legal battles and advising government agencies, including the mayor's office. The appointment must be confirmed by the city council. Banks, a long-time advocate for low-income New Yorkers and legal services for vulnerable populations, brings decades of experience in public interest laws. He spent 3 decades with the Legal Aid Society, including as attorney-in-chief, where he helped shape major legal rights for the city's homeless and low-income residents. He also served as commissioner of the New York City Department of Social Services under former Mayor Bill de Blasio from 2014 to 2018. More recently, Banks was the head of pro bono practices as the prestigious law firm Paul, Weiss, Rifkind, Wharton and Garrison. He resigned from the firm in April 2025 after it struck a controversial agreement with President Donald Trump administration, pledging $40 million in free legal services to cause aligned with the White House in exchange for withdrawing a punitive executive order. Banks said at the time that pro bono work was being reshaped into a tool of political coercion. Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist who will assume office on January 1st, 2026, has repeatedly clashed with Trump, whom he criticized sharply during his campaign. Trump, in turn, has labeled Mamdani communist. Banks' appointment is expected to signal a robust legal defense of Mamdani's progressive agenda, particularly on immigration policies and other areas likely to conflict with federal priorities. Banks said he is honored to be nominated and emphasized his commitment to representing and defending the rights of all New Yorkers. Analyst says his work will be central as the city prepares for legal challenges tied to the new mayor's ambitious policy plans. Evelyn Izibli reporting for BTV News.
Demonstrators took to the streets across parts of southern Yemen in support of the Separate Southern Transitional Council (STC), protesting remarks by Rashid Al-Alimi, head of Yemen's Saudi-backed Presidential Leadership Council, who called for the withdrawal of remaining United Arab Emirates forces from the country. The report.
The protests followed announcements and public statements related to the UAE's intention to scale back its military presence in Yemen, a move that has drawn mixed reactions among Yemen's rival political and military factions. Protesters, many waving STC flags and chanting pro-UAE slogans, gathered in cities including Aden, Laj and Abiyan, underscoring the deep divisions within the internationally recognized Yemeni government. Participants in the demonstration said the UAE has played a key role in supporting security forces aligned with the STC and in stabilizing parts of southern Yemen since intervening in the conflicts as part of the Saudi-led coalition in 2015. They accused Al-Alimi of undermining southern interests and ignoring what they describe as the UAE's contribution to counter-terrorism efforts and local security. The UAE has stood by the South when others abandoned it, one protester in Aden said, calling Al-Alimi's remarks provocative and out of touch with realities on the ground. The Southern Transitional Council, which seeks autonomy or independence for southern Yemen, holds significant influence in Aden and surrounding areas and is formally represented within the Presidential Leadership Council. However, tensions persist between STC leaders and other factions loyal to the internationally recognized government, particularly over control of security forces and the future political structure of Yemen. Rashad Al-Alimi calls for the UAE forces to leave comes amid broader efforts by the Presidential Leadership Council to assert state authority and reduce the presence of foreign military actors operating independently inside Yemen. Supporters of Al-Alimi argued that the continued deployment of non-Yemeni forces complicates efforts to unify the country's armed forces and advance a political settlement to the nearly decade-long conflict. The UAE has previously stated that it has significantly reduced its troop presence in Yemen, shifting its role toward training and supporting local allied forces rather than direct combat operations. Emirati officials have emphasized that any remaining presence is focused on counter-terrorism and maritime security, particularly along strategic waterways. Yemen conflict, which began in 2014 when Houthi rebels seized the capital Sana'a, has drawn in regional powers and fractured the country along political, regional, and tribal lines. While large-scale fighting has decreased in some areas following fragile truce, political disputes within the anti-Houthi camp continue to fuel unrest in the south. The latest demonstration highlights ongoing uncertainty over Yemen's future and the fragile balance of alliances that underpin the current governing arrangements and the country's struggles to move towards lasting stability and peace. Evelyn Isabella reporting for Beetv News.
A train driver was killed and at least 40 passengers were injured after two trains collided on a railway line leading to Machu Picchu, Peru's most visited tourist destination, authorities said. The crash occurred on the route that serves the town of Aguas Calientes, the main gateway for tourists traveling to the Inca citadel. The report.
According to initial reports, the two trains collided head-on under circumstances that were still being investigated at the time of the reports. Emergency responders were quickly dispatched to the scene. Injured passengers, many of them tourists, were evacuated and taken to nearby health facilities for treatment. Several victims were reported to have sustained fractures and other serious injuries, while others were treated for minor wounds and shock. The train driver died at the scene as a result of injuries sustained in the collision. Officials confirmed that no passengers were reported dead. Railway authorities temporarily suspended services along the affected line to allow rescue operations, medical evacuations, and a technical assessment of the tracks and train involved. Engineers and safety investigators were deployed to determine the cause of the crash, including possible human error signaling problems or mechanical failures. Local and national authorities expressed condolences to the family of the deceased driver and said they were coordinating with the railway operator to support injured passengers, including foreign tourists. Peru's tourism ministry also stated that it was monitoring the situation closely due to the importance of the Machu Picchu rail line to the country's tourism sector. Machu Picchu, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, attracts millions of visitors each year, with most travelers relying on train services to access the remote Anden site. Officials said further updates would be released as the investigation progresses and services are restored. Zainab Mohammed reporting for Beetv News.
Mamadi Doumbouya has been elected president according to provisional results from the country's December 28 vote, marking the formal end of a four-year military transition following its 2021 coup. The announcement was made late Tuesday by the General Directorate of Elections. The report.
Doumbouya, a former Special Forces commander who toppled President Alpha Conde in September 2021, secured an overwhelming 86.72% of the vote, far ahead of his nearest rival, Abdoulaye Yero Baude, who received around 6.5%. Voter turnout was reported at 80.95% of roughly 6.8 million registered voters. This election, the first since the coup, is a culmination of a transition process that began with the adoption of a new constitution in September 2025, which removed previous restrictions barring military leaders from running an extended presidential term from 5 to 7 years. The results are provincial and await final validation by Guinea's Supreme Court, which has up to 8 days to rule on any challenges. Authorities framed the election as a completion of Guinea's return to constitutional civilian leadership after more than 4 years of military rule. However, critics argued that the electoral environment favored Doumbouya, with key opposition figures barred from running or in exile and several parties dissolved. 8 other candidates contested the vote, but none posed a significant challenge. Observers and opposition groups raised concerns about limited media freedom, restrictions on dissent, and transparency issues during the campaign. Guinea has seen Doumbouya push major mining projects and assert state control over natural resources during his tenure. The election drew attention across West Africa, a region recently affected by political upheaval in several nations. Some citizens expressed hope for stability and economic process, while international rights group criticized the process for falling short of full democratic standards. With the provisional declaration of victory, Dalboya is now set to formally assume the presidency, completing Guinea's transition from military rule to a civilian-led government under his leadership. Zainab Mohammed reporting for Beetv News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Tuesday that Kyiv is holding discussions with U.S. President Donald Trump about the possible deployment of American troops on Ukrainian soil as part of border security guarantees amid ongoing efforts to reach a peace deal with Russia. The report.
Zelensky told reporters that a U.S. troop presence would be a major security boost for Ukraine and that talks are ongoing with Trump and representative of a coalition of Western allies supporting Kyiv. He emphasized that any decision on deploying American forces would be made by Washington and that such troops would be under U.S. command. The discussion formed part of intensive negotiations aimed at ending the nearly 4-year conflict triggered by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Zelensky and Kyiv remains committed to continuing peace efforts and express readiness to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin in any format. Security guarantees under negotiation. Zelensky and Trump have been engaging in talks in Florida and beyond about a framework for security guarantees that would bind the United States and potentially other Western partners to Ukraine defense commitments after a peace settlement. Under the current draft of such guarantees, the U.S. would commit for about 15 years, with Kyiv pushing for a longer term, potentially decades, as part of deterrence against future aggression. Trump acknowledged progress towards a peace deal and indicated that security guarantees were largely agreed upon in principle, though territorial issues remain unresolved. He suggested European allies would assume a big part of responsibility in any future security arrangements. The White House declined to comment on the question of dispatching U.S. troops to Ukraine under any prospective peace settlement. International and regional reactions. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk expressed cautious optimism about a peace agreement. Russian officials, meanwhile, accused Ukraine of launching an unverified drone attack on one of President Vladimir Putin's residence, a claim Kyiv denies as fabricated to undermine talks. The issue of potential U.S. troop deployment marks a significant moment in ongoing deployment efforts as Kyiv seeks robust assurance from Washington and its allies to secure long-term peace and deter renewed Russian military action. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
In one of the most audacious bank hits in recent a group of thieves exploited the quiet Christmas holiday period to drill their way into the underground vaults of a Spake Saving Bank branch in the borough district of Just-a-Kinchan. Police said the robbers made off with tens of millions of euros in cash, gold, and other valuables from customers' safe deposit boxes. The report.
Police believe the break-in occurred sometime over the extended holiday closure, which began on the evening of December 24 when most shops and banks in Germany shut down. It was not discovered until early on Monday, December 29, when a fire alarm triggered at the bank shortly before 4 a.m. Emergency responders who arrived found a large hole drilled through a thick reinforced concrete wall leading into the bank vaults. Investigators said the perpetrators gained access to the vault room from an adjacent underground parking garage, while witnesses reported seeing several men carrying large bags in the stairwell overnight between Saturday and Sunday. CCTV footage reviewed by police also showed a black Audi RS6 leaving the garage early on Monday morning with marked individuals inside. Its license plate was later identified as belonging to a vehicle previously reported stolen in Hanover, more than 200 kilometers away. Once inside the vaults, the suspect forced open more than 3,000 safe deposit boxes, police said, targeting items such as cash, jewelry, precious metals, and other valuables. Authorities estimate that around 2,700 customers were affected by the raid. Police spokesperson Thomas Nowacki described the operation as highly professional, suggesting it required meticulous planning and possibly inside knowledge of the bank's layout and security systems. Initial official estimates placed the value of the stolen goods in the double-digit millions of euros, potentially between €10 million and €90 million, roughly $11.7 million to $105.7 million, depending on what was stored in the boxes. The heist has been compared to Hollywood-style thefts, with one police official linking it to the film Ocean 11 because of its scale and evacuation. On Tuesday, hundreds of distressed customers gathered outside the bank branch, demanding information and access to their boxes, while the premises remain closed for security reasons. Police have set up a hotline for affected clients and are working with the bank and insurers to determine compensation and next steps. No suspects have been arrested and the investigation remains ongoing, with officers appealing to the public for any additional information. Forensic teams are collecting evidence and reviewing surveillance footage in hopes of identifying and locating those responsible. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
You're still watching the BTV Global News Update while we go on a short break to stay with us.
Gone but not forgotten. Our dearly beloved mommy and matriarch, late Madam Gift Soe Irabo. Mommy, it's been 8 years since you left us in this sinful world, and just like a burnt down library, our world crashed when death took you away from us. As our mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, aunt, and mother-in-law, we will not forget in a hurry the great lessons you taught us, especially your prayerful lifestyle that brought us closer to God. We remember your undying love, care, and passion for God and man. The entire family of Yorama Erabo of Ogo Town in Orion local government area of Edo State cordially invites the public to the 8 years remembrance of their daughter, mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, Madam Gift Soe Erabo. Date: January 13, 2026. Venue: Rose Garden Event Center, number 22, Giwa Amu Street, off Airport Road, GRA, Benin City. Time: 12 p.m. prompt. Mommy, continue to rest until we meet to part no more. We love you dearly. Signed, Ambassador Ogene Osaumese JP, for the family.
Welcome back, and now to business news. The General Assembly has approved the $3.45 billion regular budget for the United Nations for 2026. The approval followed weeks of intensive negotiations and one of the organization's most important forum initiative, UN80. The report.
The budget approved by the 193-member General Assembly on Tuesday authorized $3,450,426,300 for the upcoming year, covering the UN's 3 core pillars of work. These are peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights. The budget largely reflected the Secretary General proposed 15% reduction in financial resources and a nearly 19% cut in staffing. The regular budget finances the UN's core activities, including potential affairs, international justice and law, regional cooperation for development, human rights, humanitarian affairs, and public information. China said on Wednesday it will impose an additional 55% tariff on some beef imports from countries including Brazil, Australia, and the United States that exceed a certain quantity from January 1st. The price of beef in China has trended downwards in recent years, with analysts blaming oversupply and a lack of demand as the world's strong largest economy has slowed. At the same time, imports have surged with China representing a hugely important market for countries such as Brazil, Argentina, and Australia. U.S. President Donald Trump scrapped two bills this week, exercising his veto power for the first time during his second term to reject a water pipeline and the expansion of a Native American reservation. AFP reports on Wednesday that Trump vetoed the bipartisan backed bill on Monday, the White House announced on social media. Both the Senate and the House would need to pass the bill again by a third majority to override the president. One of the bill finished the Arkansas Valley Conduit Act aims to complete a decades-long plan to pipe clean water to Colorado's eastern plains. Favor Kolawole reporting for Beetv News.
And lastly, on entertainment news, Nollywood actress Sarah Martins has alerted the public after allegedly catching a new employee who stole 3 million naira from her business account just 1 week into the job. The report.
The actress revealed that the suspect, who had only been in her employment for 14 days, managed to gain unauthorized access to her phone and bank details. According to the actress, the theft was carried out with startling speed. She expressed shock that an individual who she had recently welcomed into her workspace could orchestrate such a high-stake robbery so quickly. Sarah highlighted that the worker did not have long-term or intimate access to her personal life, raising concerns about how easily the security of her mobile banking was compromised. Entrepreneur and influencer Sophia Momodu has issued a stern warning to fans and content creators who continue to link her to her former partner Afrobeat star Davido by referring her as his wife. During a recent video broadcast, the mother of Davido's first child, Imade, expressed her discomfort with the title, clarifying that her relationship with the singer ended many years ago. Sophia recounted a recent incident where she was approached by a content creator who used the singer's alias to hail her, an action she found disrespectful to the current reality of both parties. Actor George Clooney and his family have been granted French citizenship, official government document shows, after he has previously voiced concerns about raising his children amid the glitz of Hollywood. A Gazette notice listing all new French naturalization released on Saturday includes Clooney as well as his wife Amal Clooney and their twin children Alexander and Ella. Clooney, who also holds U.S. citizenship, and Alma, a British-Lebanese humanitarian lawyer, are already well familiar with their new adopted country. Though they also have homes in England and near his family in Kentucky, their primary residence is a farm in France, the actor told the New York Times in February. And that's it on the entertainment news. Evelyn Isabella reporting for Beetv News.
And that's all in our Global News Update. Thank you for joining us. I am Libritman Johanna.
Thank you.